Sean Diddy Combs is set to be sentenced this morning following his federal conviction on 2 prostitution-related charges. He faces up to 10 years in prison for each count of transportation to engage in prostitution. Here to discuss this and more is Neama Rahmani of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Neama is a former federal prosecutor, and he's been helping us out throughout this trial. Neama, good morning to you.
Good morning, Calvin. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, the U.S. Probation Department has recommended a sentence ranging between 5 and 7 years in prison. Is that a fair sentence, Neama? Is your eyes when it comes to these 2 verdicts? And I'm going to stop you there because I remember one of the times we had you on, you being a former prosecutor, you said, you'd almost just say the time served may just be good enough.
I do believe in the jury system, and I do. The jury rejected the most serious allegations in this case, and that's racketeering and sex trafficking, and just convicted Diddy of simple prostitution. Obviously, it's a crime, but there's very few people that are charged with prostitution at the federal level, and those that are don't do more than a year in federal prison. That's why I do think a sentence of time served is fair, but that's not what the government's recommending. They're recommending 11 years in prison because of the drugs and because of the physical violence. And probation, which is an arm of the court, has their own recommendation, which, like you said, is closer to that 5 years. The defense, of course, is asking for 14 months with credit for good behavior. That's going to be time served, but I don't think the judge is going to go along with the defense recommendation here.
We'll stay there for a minute, Neama. Is the judge expected to take any precedence when it comes to the sentencing, or does such a high-profile case warrant anything different? Does this play a role in it that our eyeballs are watching?
It does, and this is why. Celebrities tend to do very well at jury trials in this country, but with judges, it may actually be a little bit different. The whole entire world is watching this case, and I don't think Judge Subramanian is going to want to appear soft when it comes to Sean Diddy Combs. And it was pretty telling when, after the verdict, the defense asked for bond yet again, and the judge said no. Reading the tea leaves a bit, that leads me to believe that he is going to impose some period of incarceration today.
All right, we're going to all be watching for that. Neama, Combs submitted a letter to the judge last night. Some of it was, folks just kind of spreading around on social media, got a chance to look at it. And it expressed regret for his past violent behavior and asked the judge for mercy. He's also expected to address the court this morning. How much will the judge take those actions by Combs into a sentencing? One of the things I remember from reading it, he was saying how prison can either kill you or it can change you. He said, I'm a changed man. What do you make of just that? And just, again, the idea that does that sway judges at all?
I think it's going to be important, but I don't think it's going to be dispositive. One thing judges look for is acceptance of responsibility, and certainly better late than never with this 11th hour letter. I think what Combs says in person in court will be important today, to the extent that he does apologize to the victims. One issue, though, is when you apologize, it can reduce points off your recommendation under the federal sentencing guidelines, but it can also make it harder to appeal. And we know that Combs is going to appeal this conviction no matter what. He certainly doesn't want to be a felon, and he's going to argue to that court of appeals that this wasn't prostitution at all because he didn't actually engage in the sex acts. He just watched. And the fact that he filmed it, his team is going to argue that it wasn't prostitution at all. It was just homemade pornography.
Well, you just mentioned their appeals. Let me ask you this. Are there any more possible appeals by the defense, or have they run out of options?
There are appeals. They have 30 days after today's sentence to appeal. And it's not just the appeal. Let's be honest. Combs is going for the home run, and that is a presidential pardon. It's no secret that the president has handed out a lot of federal pardons, including pardons of many high-profile rappers. So I think that's an angle that the defense team is going to be pursuing as well, in addition to the legal appeals in court.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I know Lil Wayne was one of them, as well as others. Now, on the other side, prosecutors were unable to convict Combs of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges, as you mentioned earlier, allowing him to avoid a possible life sentence. Can they do anything to get Combs back in on maybe another trial?
I don't think so. The statute of limitations for some of the domestic violence offenses here in Los Angeles, they've run. Obviously, the jurors rejected the sex crimes as well. So given the fact that you presented this case to a jury and it wasn't even hung, I mean, it was a 12-0 unanimous rejection of the testimony of Cassie, Jane, Mia, and the other victims. I think this is the end of the road for prosecutions when it comes to Sean Combs.
All right. Well, as we mentioned, a lot of eyeballs are going to be watching this high-profile case. Neama Rahmani of West Coast Trial Lawyers and former federal prosecutors. Thank you so much for your time, Neama. We'll do it again.
Of course. Talk soon.